Hello, the game has started. It's my opponent to go first. I've got a fantastic rack, I've got the blank. Do I have a bingo? Just the one vowel, so let me consider the blank as a vowel. How about an A? Not seeing anything, nor with an E. How about an I? No. An O? No. A U? No. I will have plenty of eights, but opponent needs to play something, so if he changes, I may be prevented from bingoing, which would be enormously frustrating. This is a great rack. Great. I have pentanol through the O. That's not a double-double. So column 5 is the hottest column, if I can get a double-double, and then it would be column 8. So let me consider this O. I've seen pentanol. What else do I have? Let me consider this rack. That is the pentanol rack. This rack plus an O. And the blank as a vowel is likely to be most promising. I have non-nuplet. I've just seen that. That again isn't a double-double. That will be the ing ending. So I'm considering this rack plus an O. Could be something there. But I'm not seeing anything which is a double-double yet. So the S, nope. That's non-nuplet. Pentanil through an O. Okay, so let me go back to my first thought. Pentanol for 68. I haven't considered bingos onto the D, but with only one blank, I don't think there will be one. Wow, that is an absurdly good pickup. Absolutely ridiculous. Way better than it needs to be to guarantee a bingo. And the board is wide open. I have disorder in column 8. All my tiles are one-pointers, so to maximise score, I simply have to avoid putting the blank on the double letter square. So, are there any double-double lanes? There aren't. Zuid takes an S, but disorder is going to score more. And I also have, well, I have sorditor, but that doesn't get tripled. Do I have something at the top of the board that would tighten the board up? And surely I do. I must have a play ending ED or oid. So, well, Rosiad I don't think is good. Do I have a bingo with this rack plus a D, ending in D? And now opponents played. Still no double-double lane. And I would like to find a bingo which ends in E. But I'm not seeing one at the moment. I do have a bingo. What about Morist? Possibly. Wow, that looks close. There could be several, but I'm not seeing any I'm absolutely sure about. And they're going to be very, very high probability. I'm going to try Morist, and if that's not good, just come straight back to disorder. And it is good. Fantastic. And it certainly is better playing at the top. Pentanol takes an S, but playing disorder would have provided a lot more floaters, and not just more floaters, but in more flexible positions. Now, my bingo run ends, and opponent's got a good rating, so I can't really be confident about holding on to a big lead. Great, just 14 points. So, how to sort this rack out? I guess just playing Vor would do that. Top left. Not a fantastic rack leave, AROS, but not terrible. I have Muirva in row A, but I don't particularly want to turn over a ton of tiles. So what about column 3, because Van is good, and both vowels can go in front of PE. Well, interesting, I have Avo in this spot for 31 points, which is pretty good, and it gives very little away, and the top left triple word square is no big deal. I am creating a new lane, but it's not particularly dangerous. So, do I have something here? This looks promising. C and K do have synergy. But is there something? I'm not seeing a 7. Let me consider the floaters. Not seeing anything with the M or the O. R is a duplicate. No, so I'm not seeing anything. But this feels like it's a nice rack. C is a bingo-y tile, so what I'm looking to do is play off K and O and possibly another K. Now, I mustn't overlook the Z as a useful tile. But I'm not seeing anything great down from that. I do have Zax, but that would leave double O on my rack. But 40 points, so I need to do something half decent with the K. Van inhibits a big overlap because nothing goes in front of it. Floating E available. I have Rock on my rack. Great, opponent getting very low scores. So I have Rock with OAS. Does that suggest anything? It does not. Now what I don't have is anything great top left. So what about playing Colo? 26 points, but I'm keeping a really bingo-y set. I'm giving very little away. And Zax was 14 more points, but burning the S, which is worth 8 to 10 points. So these moves are close, but I suspect Colo is in fact better. I am going with this. Not so good. Really unbalanced. And I just draw 3 high-scoring tiles, C, H, and M. However, these scoring tiles do work reasonably well together. For example, I have March on my rack, and is good, so that would be a 40-point play. Will that remain available? I have a nearly 100-point lead, but opponent's on turn, so if he bingos, my lead will be slender, and still a ton of tiles to come. Now, Cash Rom is good through an O. No floating O, and only 1 to come, so that's not going to happen. What about the other floating vowels? How about the I of Morist? My M could go in front of the U. No, not seeing anything there. How about the E? No. Okay, so certainly March is the best I've seen. Pentanol does take an S, so maybe there could be a play in row J. Now, opponent's taken my spot, which is really frustrating. I didn't have a second play in mind. So, what to do here? Oot takes an S. Column 10 limited scoring possibilities. I could play match here, although that takes a ton of floaters at the end and only scores 20 points. Now, what do I have which goes after ZO? Well, I have the A, which is no good as it's my only vowel. I was looking to start with an M. So 13 minutes on my clock. And the solitary vowel really prevents me getting any value in row K. What about a play down from the N? Not seeing anything. So I'm just wondering about merch. Don't think so. I think it's just churn. "13 minutes on my clock." What about a play down from ZO? Not seeing anything. Double M is good, but I don't have an E for going next to the R. Well, the board's too tight for my own good. I'm going to play Char. 27 points is nearly 30 points. Rackleaf, slightly vowel heavy, but if I draw 2 vowels, I'm definitely in bingo territory, and there are a ton of A's and E's to come. I do draw 2 vowels, but I draw an F as well. So again, too many high-scoring tiles, but I still hang on to my 90-point lead. And the board's fairly tight. Gape takes an A in front. So, do I have a bingo here? I don't think so. Both blanks have gone. 2 S's to come. Nothing down from the N. KE not good, so I don't have any options in row J. So, I could take out all of these floaters with Reef for 20. Not a great score. But I'm denying my opponent those floaters, and they weren't terribly useful, so that's not worth a sacrifice to achieve. Remaining tiles are okay. Is this the right thing to do? It doesn't feel great, but it doesn't feel terrible either. I guess what I'd like to do is play off an M rather than the R. So something like FEEM, but I'm not seeing anywhere for that. Or for those tiles, that's not a valid word. Yeah, I am going with this. Good grief. Who have I offended? This is shocking. Gosh, how a rack can deteriorate. I had cars as a rack lead just 2 moves ago. And I haven't been sacrificing rack lead for score. I've just relentlessly drawn badly, and the remaining tile's pretty bingo-y. I am really minded to change here. I'm also glad that I've blocked the board up. It makes it a lot harder for opponent to bingo. Column 1 the best lane, but it's massively restricted in having to be in with an A or see something A. Row K is a bingo lane, but it requires overlaps which aren't massively useful. Okay, is there anything better than changing? I would need a really, really big score. No, so I am going to change, and what's nice is that I can keep the S, and I'll keep the C as well, and everything else can go. Good riddance. Much better. I have Biatches. Wow, does that play? Not sure it does. B-I, no. R-E-A, not good. Nothing to go in front of the U. Biatches doesn't have an anagram. Cab is good, but only an S goes after oot. and I can't stick my B anywhere else in row K. So nowhere for my bingo right now, but this is a much nicer rack, and I still have a 60-point lead. And Biatches is good through a T. Still 3 T's to come. Just checking that column 1 is still a bingo lane after jar, and it is. Now, do I have a non-bingo in row K, overlapping the J and KA? Cab is good, so anything with AB in would work. Not seeing anything. Well, I guess I've got basic. 34 points. Not amazing. Now Reb is good. Wow, look at this. Absolutely amazing. Biatches does now go for 84 points. Bang! That surely solidifies my victory, or enables me to be more confident of it. I'm no longer nursing a 60 or 70 point lead. I've now got a 140 point lead. What a stroke of good fortune. I had nowhere else for my bingo. And I've drawn badly because, well, I haven't drawn some of the junk I chucked back, but I had in mind that there were a lot of bingo-y tiles to come. But G, U and V together, pretty grim. But I'm now facing a troublesome rack from a position of having a big lead. It looks like opponents swamped with vowels. I don't have anything which goes in front of Ami. I think it's just M and R, possibly just R. Now, I'd like to, well, turn over some tiles, because I don't want to keep any of these, and I'd like to expedite the end of the game. And I'm looking for somewhere to play Vug or Vogue or Gov, and I'm not seeing anywhere. So what do I have in row L, given that Jag is good? I don't have anything yet, but what goes after Cam? A and I do. A, E and I. Surely I've got one more tile. I do. So I can play a D here, and I'm keeping out as a prefix, not bad. I'm not splitting up U and V, but 37 points is a very big score. And I'm stopping opponent from scoring in this spot. Gado isn't good, it's Gadjo. Egad and Igad are both good. Now my T could go instead of the D, so that would be Gat, but I can't extend it. I am going with this. And the other point I was going to make is that retaining the U is okay because it's the last U and there's still a Q to come. Now, more horror. Through an E I would have unvexed, and vexed also. Not seeing anything from the B. Karma only takes an S, 2 S's to come. I have a 140 point lead. C only takes an H. So, any good X spots? Not that I can see. U takes an O in front, 2 A's to come. So column 1 could be a spot for a COA word. EST is good, but I'm going to struggle to turn over tiles here. 9 minutes on my clock, 18 tiles still to come. So what am I going to do here? Do I really have no 5-letter plays beginning with B? I've got button, but that's 1 tile too many. No, just not seeing anything. And I don't see any great plays using the floaters in Biatches. So, Wow, 40 points for opponent, but he's had to burn an S to achieve that. And that's not great, because the only opportunities he's provided are really row N, and he hasn't, because I've got no vowel to go after the F. So I could play above the F. What would I play there? I could play out, which isn't great. It's restricting plays in row N, but it's enabling plays in row M. However, let me check the remaining vowels. 7 out of 21, not many vowels. So it's probably not a good idea throwing away both of mine. So, what about playing Evest? Is that good? I think it is. Only 12 points. I don't like that. Not in terms of its validity, but it takes an S if it's good. 8 minutes on my clock. So, what to do? I have a 100-point lead, so opponent could bingo and score. This game is not won. What can I do? I don't have a 6 letter play beginning with T. EST being good. And I want to hang on to vowels. How can I do that? What about a play through R, E and A? And I'm not thinking about playing the X, just anything. No. R, E and C. Gosh. I would like to hang on to the U. So, what about a play which hooks out? That's going to provide access to a triple word square. Wow, I was pleased with Gad, and it just set opponent up for that play, and he's probably got vowels. So, what am I going to do? Tricky. What about playing Cutto? Still one S to come. 16 points. Keeping the V. Don't like that. What about playing Knox, which takes out row L as a bingo lane, forces opponent to bingo in row N, which provides access to triple word squares, and scores 18 points. I'm going with this. Phew, I draw a vowel. I suspect that was pretty awful. But sometimes you've just got to play something. I can play blunt in row A. 24 points, turning over 4 tiles, only 12 in the bag. I have Vaunt on my rack. I do have an A for agape, but I don't have any 6-letter A plays. Blunt burns the U, which is a mixed blessing given the vowel shortage and the fact that there's a Q out in the open. And look at this, opponent is setting up a bingo lane, but I'm 100 points ahead. I'm minded to run for the hills. These floaters aren't particularly useful. I'm retaining AT in case I draw the Q. 24 points. There's nothing I can do about the bingo lane, and in any event, I don't mind a row N bingo. I am going with this. Wow, I do draw the Q. Is there anywhere for cats? Not right now. Do I have any other lanes? I could be stuck with the Q. But I currently have a good lead. Remaining tiles absurdly bingo-y, so opponent likely to bingo right now, I think, in row N. Or possibly column 15, which would be much better for him. But there's only 6 tiles in the bag, so he can't have back-to-back bingos, and that should be enough to see me over the line. He may get 20 points on count back from the queue. The opponent doesn't have an O for a column 1 bingo beginning with C. Now through an N I would have trank. Still one N to come. Opponent might have an ING word in row N. That would be useful. I'm still looking around to see if there are any Q spots, any I's available. I don't think so. Hard to believe there are 8 of them on the board, but they are, and they are all hiding. None of the U's are available. Yeah, so cat's all I'm seeing, and there's nowhere for that. Azo is good, but I don't have a Q play there. Interesting, maybe I could have played Van when I played Knox. 22 points. Well, I don't think I could. I didn't have an A at that point. Now, opponent taking a while, but surely he's choosing between which bingo to play rather than not having one. It was a good play in terms of hooks. It takes an E and an S, and opponent must have an E on his rack, I would imagine. 8 minutes on opponent's clock. Maybe he's trying to avoid giving me the trank spot. Now, I would also have Talak through an A. No A's available, but one to come. And I'm just looking around at the A's on the board, but none is available. Oh, fantastic. Opponent has provided a Q spot, and I'm not emptying the bag, so I will have another turn. So I have cat for 18. Phew. Well, it's not the end of the world being stuck with the Q, but it's just ingrained into you, I think, as a Scrabble player to try and avoid that scenario, because it's just holds out the possibility of opponent playing out 1 by 1 and then getting 20 points at the end, so it can massively affect spread. Now, opponent's rack has just got even better. Mine isn't good enough to bingo in return, but my lead is good enough to win this game. Opponent could hook all of the tiles in cat. And triple word square access isn't massively useful with the W and V. I'm not sure I have any WV words on my rack. But I do have plenty of candidate words with these tiles. Now, EGAD is good, and I think Rame, so I have Revel. Column 1, that's nice. And opponent is not going to go there. 38 points. Wow, fantastic. 2 tiles in the bag. And I have 100 and... Wow, opponent... Interesting. I suspect opponent did have a bingo. Maybe he wants me to empty the bag so that he can get count back. Fine. So I have Revel for 41. Wow, and I draw the B. And opponent has retains on his rack, the best rack in Scrabble. So he will be bingoing. He has tertians in column 15. Does he have something amazing in column 14? Not beginning with N, and therefore not getting doubled, but he may have a play which hooks the Q. Not seeing one. He has Larniest in row O. Stainer in column 14 and a ton of bingos in row N. So he will be bingoing and he will be getting 18 points in countback, but it's not enough as he trails by nearly 180. So opponent just played the D, so I played Revel fairly quickly, but playing that D didn't create anything. And I couldn't avoid emptying the bag. So opponent will be going out, so I won't have a shot at the 500 mark. But that's okay, the victory is the main thing. So, how long has opponent got? 5 minutes on his clock. Now, the beginning of the month was quite a while ago, but the beginning of every month, a brand new video goes up on the Patreon site for patrons of the channel. It's always a 5-minute game, and it's super exciting. Lots of mistakes, but also lots of high scores, and you're in an almost instant struggle against time. So super exciting stuff. Brand new video, beginning of every month, to say thanks to the supporters of the channel, which keep the channel going. So do consider subscribing or joining Patreon if you haven't done already. And many thanks to those of you who are supporting the channel. And not only do you get a new video every month, but you have access to the entire back catalogue of videos, plus the opportunity to be my opponent in one of the games on the main channel. And opponent goes out, he does find tertians. I normally get interrupted when I mention Patreon, but opponent had the good grace to wait until I'd finished. So, and the final score, 389 for my opponent, 471 for me, a winning margin of 82 points, so a huge, huge win. Let's see what I missed. Wow, what a game. So good to get that Biatch's bingo down, made all the difference. Now, it was opponent to go first. He played Zooid for 50, which was a great start. And I had pentanol and non-Nuplet, and there was nothing else. Yeah, a pentanol in this spot did score the most. Opponent's rack, pretty grim. Plays Rupiah, which was a good find. And, well, the 8H plays are the plays coming down, which provide more floaters. So it's the 8A play, and Morris was the only one. Interesting. And then a few other plays for slightly fewer points. Opponent's rack, I think he's got Unwitty, but nowhere for it. Plays Ayus. Arvo C3. Interesting. Because Vat's good as well as Van. However, the R helps this rack by more than 2 points. So Avo is fine. Opponent's rack has Townite. Nowhere for that. Plays Woe. Phew, I was waiting for a bingo to pop up there. So Zax, I thought about that. Then went with Colo for 26. So is Cars 16 points better than OOR? Yes, it is. OOR is pretty awful, probably worth about -7. And Cars is pretty good. S is worth 8 to 10. All of these tiles help it. So this is going to be in the 15 to 20 point region, and a rule of thumb is, what would happen if you drew a vowel, and Cars would be massively improved. So I'd put that at between 15 and 20, and or at -5. So I would say there's a -7. So I would say there's at least a 20 point difference in rack leaves and only a 16 point difference in score. So I like my play. So it was opponent to play. So let's go back and have a look at his choices. And he blocked a fantastic spot for me. And this is a rack I struggled with, and I only had a bingo's lead at this point. And I went with Char in the end, and I think that's fine. Char's scores 8 more points, but burns the S. J1. Yeah, and opens access to triple word squares, so I like my play. Not a nice rack for opponent, plays Hug. Now, what do I do here? I play Reef for 20. Interesting. very few moves actually score more than that. But firm, I10. Well, firm, a nicer rack leave, but provides useful floaters, provides access to this triple word square, so I don't think reef is terrible. But it wasn't great either. Opponent plays jar, and now I have this horror show, and e7. Myths for 30. Yeah, there is an argument for playing that and just postponing sorting the rack out. You may have a miracle draw. And 30 points isn't terrible. I suspect that to wash though, in the sense that if you simulated myths and simulated changing, probably not much between them. Now, opponent's rack, he does have vowels, plays miney, which is just fantastic because look at that. Just the one bingo and only one place for it, which has just been provided by opponent. So I now have a 130 point lead. This is opponent's rack. He's stuck with vowels, plays Ami. I play Gad, which I was pleased with. Opponent still got all those eyes, plays Seif. And now this is the rack I really struggled with. And I went with Nox in the end, down here for 18. Wow, that rack leaves painful. So from a score perspective, that's not bad. Neves, where's that G7? Yeah, pretty handy, holding on to both vowels. Yeah, I think I prefer Neves, and only 1 point difference in score. Opponent's rack. Wow, no bingo here, but that looks pretty close. I was just wondering if I blocked one with Nox, but I don't think I did. Opponent plays Id. 10 tiles in the bag. And I play Blunt for 24, and I like that. Opponent has Ratlins. Nowhere for it. Wow. Plays Mel. And that gives me a chance to unload the queue. Milar is good, so I could have played it lower down. Yeah, but those are the only queue spots, so I prefer this positioning as well because it provides fewer bingo opportunities in column 14. Wow, I was convinced opponent had a bingo here, and he simply doesn't. All of these 3 E's are on my rack or in the bag. So opponent plays just the solitary D. I now have Revel for 41, which was a decent score, and opponent has this fabulous rack. Interesting, Tertians I thought would score the most, 77, but C1, Anestri and Agape was available. Wow, for about 5 more points, and that was the end of the game. So absolutely magnificent fun, nearly 500 points. Fairly close-ish during the game until I managed to get Beatrice down, which established a good lead that I was able to hang on to. So all good fun. Many thanks to my opponent for a good battle. I hope you enjoyed watching that game, and I will see you next time.